heart to learning, open up my heart to love. Help me to know myself and how I should learn. I open up to learning, I open up to joy. Help me to learn a language and let it be my happiness.
Hi everyone, and welcome again to another Teacher Joseph podcast. On the 1st of December, it was World AIDS Day, and that's the day we remember people who died of that terrible disease associated with AIDS and the HIV virus. Today, we're going to explore a little bit more about that and remember some of the people who died. I'm old enough to remember when AIDS came upon the scene, and it wasn't very nice. There was a lot of judgment, which, if you're very young, you might not remember. It was similar to the way that we viewed COVID. We became very suspicious of people, and there were some people here who refused to use the same cups, knives and forks, or even public toilets, that they knew that perhaps someone who was infected with the virus HIV or who had AIDS had used, even though in reality there was no risk. The situation was very sad indeed, and many of us knew people who died of an AIDS-related illness. Of course, it wasn't just people that we knew. There were also famous people who died. One of them was Freddie Mercury from Queen. Everyone knew that he had died of an AIDS-related illness, and there was a lot of moral judgment against him. There was some feeling as well that perhaps AIDS or the HIV virus was somehow only related to gay people. We're going to pause here to remember the life of an actor called Casey Stevens, and you can find him in the movie Prom Night. Let's see now Casey Stevens in action with Jamie Lee Curtis. This is from the movie Prom Night, 1980.
Feet are in the groove. I just move a little closer. I feel you moving right. There's nothing more exciting than dancing in the moonlight with your baby. Ooh, dancing in the moonlight with your baby. Ooh, 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 come on, dancing in the moonlight.
Now, I don't know if we were just better dancers in those days, but certainly Casey Stevens, he made some really good moves there. I don't think I was dancing like that in the 70s. Well, I was a bit young anyway to be doing that. I think I was much younger than he was, but still some great moves from him and Jamie Lee Curtis. Now, he sadly died very young. Clearly, he was searching for something, and he eventually passed away with an AIDS-related illness. But I always think of him on the 1st of December. Let's just read a little bit more about him now. Right, so it says here, did you know the actor who played Jamie Lee Curtis's boyfriend in Prom Night sadly died of AIDS? Well, that in itself is a little bit misleading because you don't die of AIDS, you die of an AIDS-related illness. Now, I have to say that this guy, Casey Stevens, he was a very hard man to try to find any information about. And I've been trying to find out what happened to him for years. But through social media, I've been able to track down a little bit about him. So this is the biographer of Jamie Lee Curtis, who apparently said Casey Stevens was the hardest person to track down in terms of what happened to him after he'd worked with Jamie Lee Curtis on Prom Night. That's the movie. He just disappeared, and several years ago it was revealed that he died of AIDS, but nothing more was known about him. Well, I was intrigued about this and I kept digging and digging until I tracked down Casey's former agent, who put me in touch with some of Casey's friends who told me about his life. Casey Stevens was probably the saddest story because of the way he just vanished after Prom Night. It's as if his role in Prom Night, his role as Jamie's prom king in the film, was his one shining moment, his one time in the spotlight. Oh, and they dated during filming too. You know, it's kind of like someone for whom high school is the high point of their lives. Sad, he was also in love with Jamie. And there we are. That is a story about Casey Stevens. But it doesn't end there. There are some links here. Somebody is saying here that his real name is Stephen David Paul. He's buried in Quebec, Canada. He was born in 1954 and he died in 1994. And there's even a picture of his grave on this link, but we're not going to look at that. That would be just too sad. Someone else here commenting, we knew him as Steve Paul. He found Jesus. Yeah, he lived his last days with peace and joy in Christ, it says here. Finally, he worked as an airline steward and attended our church for many years. And it goes on and on here. There's also another one of these links telling us that he moved to India to try and find himself. And when he was there, apparently he was looked after by monks, but then he went back to Hollywood. So he was on a real spiritual search. This link here to a Facebook page is filled with his friends and family talking about what an interesting guy he was. So that's a very interesting link to look at as well. But we're not going to do that now because we want to talk a little bit more about how World AIDS Day was respected here in the UK. Right, here we are again, World AIDS Day. And here you can see the headline on the page. It says World AIDS Day. It's more than a ribbon. Join with us to promise, pledge, and take a stand for people living with HIV. Of course, the AIDS epidemic, you may know it by different names. I think in Spanish it's SIDA. And AIDS is anti-immune deficiency syndrome, I think. I'm not quite sure if that's right, but it's something like that. And it's a day when you'll see many people wearing these red ribbons, just as this man has. More Than a Ribbon, Terence Higgins Trust is a charity here in the UK which is supporting people who have been affected by AIDS. Let's read. World AIDS Day is held every year on 1st of December and is a time to remember those we have lost to HIV. The red ribbon is the international symbol for HIV awareness and support for people living with HIV. But our community, it's more than a ribbon. It's remembering everyone lost to HIV. It's a promise to support people living with HIV, and it's a pledge to end new cases of HIV by 2030. And I have to say that even today, people with HIV still face a lot of stigma and a lot of moral judgment. It's very sad. So it goes on to talk about how you can support them, where you can buy ribbons as well. And here you can see trainers and speakers, fundraising ideas. And you can even walk 10 kilometers this World AIDS Day. And so those are the kind of things that people do who are affected by HIV. So it's just very important that you spend a moment just reflecting. I'm not sure if you've ever been affected by HIV or AIDS yourself. Maybe you've known someone who has, but either way, it is just worth taking that time in early December just to remember this horrific illness, which was akin to COVID. It certainly was related in that the way people acted was hysterical, really. People were not thinking in any kind of straight way when it came to AIDS. They were very judgmental. That's what I remember about the time. Anyway, that's it from me for today. I just wanted to bring to your attention World AIDS Day. Let's talk again soon, and I wish you a wonderful evening, morning, or afternoon ahead. Bye.